Part 69. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 681. Due to the Devourer's current position, it was out of their range. Although the vehicle-mounted missiles could hit them, they did not launch an attack. The people in the Hope base were now even more puzzled as to why this group of guys had actually set up a defensive position on the opposite side, as if they wanted to fight a protracted war with them. What the hell is going on? Lu Feng looked at Tang Haoshan and asked. I want to know too. Tang Haoshan smiled bitterly, then looked at Gui Wuivong. Gui Wuivong was quite smart. He picked up the intercom and shouted. Xiao Lei. Did you see that? These guys are actually setting up positions. What should we do? What should we do? Wait. Duan Lei's voice came from the intercom. I don't know what these guys are thinking now, but for us, delaying time should be beneficial to us, as long as it doesn't take half a year for the mother nest to arrive. There is no news about the madman yet, but I think he will always come back before the mother nest. Since they don't attack, we can just wait. Yeah. Got it? Gui Wuivong said to the intercom, and then looked at Lu Feng and Tang Haoshan. Just wait. Haha. Then just wait. Tang Haoshan laughed twice and said, but everyone could hear the depression in his laughter. Originally, their mission this time was actually very cool. As long as the Devourer launched a large-scale attack as they expected before, they could use up all the heavy weapons left here in the shortest time. Not to mention how many Devourers they could kill, the spectacular scene alone was enough to excite them for a while. Who knew that this group of Devourers would actually set up a position 2 kilometers away from them, which was a bit annoying. At this distance, artillery and rockets could hit them, and they were even within the range of the severely injured sniper. However, artillery and rockets have limited ammunition, and severely injured ones need to have additional superpowers to effectively kill Devourers. It was obviously unwise to expose the secret that they could add superpowers to ammunition so early. Moreover, they didn't know what the Devourer's purpose was yet. Was they going to fight them until the mother nest came? Or did they have other plans? However, as Duan Lei said, delaying time in the short term was a good thing for the Hope base. Because they were waiting for Wang Feng's return, it seemed that Wang Feng had become the symbol of the Hope base since the establishment of the Hope base. Just like Shen Yishan's evaluation of Wang Feng that time, only when Wang Feng was still there, the Hope base would really have hope. So Duan Lei's order is also correct now. No matter what the purpose of the Devourers is, as long as they don't attack, then he will just confront them. Anyway, when Wang Feng comes back, that guy will always bring surprises. Who knows what he will find behind that mysterious portal? It took the Devourers a day to complete their defense line, and what made everyone in the Hope base feel exaggerated was that these Devourers even built a camp behind the defense line. This obviously means that they want to fight a protracted war? Are they really going to confront me here until the moment when the mother nest descends? Duan Lei was naturally aware of the Devourer's actions, but his answer was quite simple, just one word: wait. Since they had received Duan Lei's order, Lu Feng and his team would naturally not cause any trouble. Therefore, in the following day, there was no conflict between the Devourer and the Hope base. Xiao Lei. They seem to have sent people to the Black Dragon Bridge, and there are quite a few people, at least 2 million. Early the next morning, Lu Feng and Tang Haoshan found something wrong, so they immediately informed Duan Lei. Because they saw that teams of Devourers were quietly leaving their camp and evacuating to the Black Dragon Bridge. Although the number was small each time, who were Lu Feng and Tang Haoshan? This tactic certainly could not deceive their eyes. The Black Dragon Bridge, the former gateway to the Hope base, has now been completely abandoned by the Hope base. Because the original intention of designing the Black Dragon Bridge was to resist the zombie tide. And now, their enemies are no longer zombies, and in fact, there may not be many zombies on the entire planet. Needless to say, there may not even be a few mutant beasts in the West Continent and the South Continent, and there may not be any traces of mutant beasts in the North Continent except for the glaciers in the north, let alone zombies. As for the East Continent, there may be zombies, but with the Devourers now moving towards the Black Dragon Bridge, the zombies in the East Continent may also be extinct. However, what Duan Lei is worried about now is not those zombies, although they used to be humans, but at least they are not in the same camp now. Moreover, until now, even with Chris's joining, Dr. Gu Changsheng has not developed a way to reverse the zombie virus. Therefore, those zombies are equivalent to eternal death, so their existence or not, at least now, is no longer considered by Duan Lei. What Duan Lei is worried about now is the humans scattered in the East Continent. Wang Feng had told Duan Lei all about his experiences outside last time. So Duan Lei now knows that there should be at least 4 waves of humans in the Dongzhou continent. Hu Yahuan and the survivors of the Hope Base who were taken away at the time are considered one wave, and this wave of people is in the underground fortress of Juking City. Their traces have long been known by the Hope Base, but Duan Lei did not let the 2 armies of the Hope Base find trouble with them. The second wave of people are the people of the Manta tribe who once gave Wang Feng a great favor. These people are what Duan Lei really cares about. However, since they did not come to the Hope Base, Duan Lei naturally has no ability to care about them now. When the Devourer allocated a part of its troops to the Black Dragon Bridge, Duan Lei sent Wang She and Wang Lu, 2 of the 3 children. Duan Lei asked them to go to the Manta tribe of Huabulu and the survivors of Hizihao to inform them of the arrival of the Devourer. The Manta tribe was the people who were rescued by Wang Feng when he destroyed the Devourer's spaceship. At that time, Huabulu left a good impression on Wang Feng. As for Hizihao and the others, they met in the camp of Zhao Ying and Fang Xiaoun. Because Wang Feng killed Zhao Ying, Hizihao and the others did not agree to join the Hope Base, but left on their own. But in Wang Feng's eyes, Hizihao and those who left with him were ironclad men. At least, they were much more loyal than those who immediately turned to Wang Feng and the others after seeing Zhao Ying's death in the camp. Although in this doomsday, their temperament would make them more likely to die, but Wang Feng still liked to contact such people. As for the last group of people, even Duan Lei was not sure whether they were still alive, because this group of people was the soldiers led by Fang Cheng and Dai Jianfeng. Originally, Wang Feng and Duan Lei thought Fang Cheng was dead. After all, at that time Fang Cheng and Wang Feng were at the center of the simultaneous detonation of 2 missiles. It is now clear that Wang Feng was able to survive because the Kali tribe launched the light transmission and saved Wang Feng's life. As for Fang Cheng, no one saved him at the beginning, but who would have thought that this guy was so lucky and actually survived? When Duan Lei heard the news about Fang Cheng from Daiguo, he was still a little unbelievable. Finally, after learning that this guy and Dai Jianfeng disappeared together, Duan Lei nodded. This is in line with Fang Cheng's character, so the mysterious guy is naturally Fang Cheng. However, Duan Lei did not take them to heart, because no matter whether it was Hu Yahuan or Fang Cheng, Duan Lei would not be sad for them if anyone died. However, Huabulu and Hizihao did need to be warned. However, it was also a delusion for Shanhuyu to let them come to the Hope Base now, because the current Black Dragon Bridge was already the territory of the Devourer. Therefore, Duan Lei could only tell Wang She and Wang Lu to hide underground after finding them. After the Devourer was eliminated, they would go to find them. However, of these 2 groups, only the Manta tribe of Huabulu can be found by Duan Lei. As for Hizihao and the others, Duan Lei can only let Wang Lu try to find them. It would be best if he can find them, but if he can't, there is nothing he can do. As for Li Yingning, he is the most sure to go out, but in this state, Duan Lei doesn't dare to send Li Yingning out at all. Fortunately, Li Yingning can fight a nest guard alone, and he can also see where the nest guard's weakness is. Although number 7 can do this now, he was raised by a predator after all, and it will be easy for the nest guard to find him. Therefore, Li Yingning is still the most important trump card of the Hope base. He will never regret playing it until the critical moment. After 3 days of confrontation, the Devourers on the opposite side finally made a move. When seeing the Devourers launching an attack, Lu Feng finally felt happy and shouted, "Brothers! Get ready! The Devourers are looking for death. Let's show them some color." Tang Haoshan looked at the troops attacking from the Devourer camp and became furious. "Fight the Devourers? I think we have to kill the traitors first." Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 682. Hearing Tang Haoshan's words, Lu Feng and others were also stunned, and then looked at the troops that were attacking them. Equation. Opposite is a mechanized army, and the man sitting on the first tank is none other than Equation. Damn it! This bastard actually surrendered to Devourer and came to attack us. Lu Feng cursed fiercely. "Where's the hurricane? Launch missiles and blast these bastards away." Dai Guo was also standing on the city wall at this time, pointing at the army opposite and roaring. He clearly saw that his fellow countryman, Dai Jianfeng, was also among the team attacking them at this time, and he couldn't help but get furious. Boom boom boom. What answered Dai Guo was not the sound of missile launches from his own side, but the roar of artillery fire from the opposite side. Dai Jianfeng and Fang Fang commanded regular troops. They were also very good at controlling artillery and tanks. The shells hit the city wall of Ganlin County very accurately. Since the Devourer has no long-range attacks, it is hoped that the soldiers of the two legions in the base will use a dense defense formation. Fortunately, the soldiers of the two legions were all elite soldiers trained by Li Yingning. When they discovered that the opponent was not a Devourer, but a mechanized force, they immediately dispersed without the orders of Lu Feng and others, and retreated directly when the artillery fire came, thus avoiding a large number of casualties. Fight back! All the artillery, fire all, hit him! Gui Wuivong, who was blown away by a shell, shouted in embarrassment. Fortunately, he felt something bad just now, so he retreated and avoided the blast point of the shell, but was only hit by the aftermath of the explosion. Boom boom boom. The artillery and tanks in the Hope base all roared, and all the artillery shells were thrown into the opposite team that was attacking them. These artillery pieces had already been adjusted to shoot at Zhu Yuan, and now they accurately delivered the shells to the enemy formation without any need for calibration. Equation and the others have obviously received help from the Devourers in the past few days, so they now have a large amount of weapons and ammunition. Therefore, in the exchange of fire with the Hope base, their firepower was not weaker than that of the Hope base. On the contrary, they tended to overtake. However, in the exchange of artillery fire, the strengths and weaknesses of the soldiers on both sides can be seen. It is hoped that those who remain on the first line of defense at the base are soldiers from the two legions. The worst among these warriors are the 6th level creatures. On the opposite side, there are not even those who have reached the 5th level. There are only a small half of the awakened ones, plus a large half of the evolved ones. So after fighting for half a day, only a dozen soldiers were killed on the Hope base side, while on the opposite side, there were countless casualties. Because we hope that the soldiers on the base can determine the impact point of the shells and dodge before the shells arrive. Because it was fast enough and its self-healing ability was quite strong, not many people actually died. The opposite is not possible. Neither the evolved nor the awakened have yet entered the ranks of 5th level creatures. They are far apart in terms of self-healing ability and speed, so the mortality rate is also quite high. However, their advantage is that they have much more ammunition than Hope base. Because we know that heavy weapons such as artillery are not very effective against Devourers, we hope that the base will mainly collect firearms and ammunition during this period. For heavy war machinery such as artillery that is bulky and has little effect, it is hoped that the base does not have a large collection. And because they were on their own territory, they did not destroy all the artillery they found, but just left them there. Unexpectedly, these weapons would now be used by the equation to attack themselves. This was indeed something Doomsday and the others did not expect. Since the opponent's ammunition was much more than that of Hope Base, when the artillery duel came to an end, the sound of artillery fire from Hope Base had weakened a lot, until it became silent. Laolu. Bring the people back. Doomsday's voice sounded on the intercom. No. Xiaolei. We can't withdraw. Lu Feng said into the intercom without hesitation. Looking at the opponent's artillery fire, they still have a lot of ammunition. If we evacuate now, we will only let them drive straight in and rush directly into the Blue Water Garden. Although there are defensive steel plates on the outside of the buildings in Bishui Garden, they are used to defend against mutant beasts, and the defensive wall is only used to defend against zombies and devourers. If they rush in and attack the Green Water Garden with artillery fire, the Green Water Garden will be razed to the ground by their artillery fire. Doomsday fell silent after hearing Lu Feng's words. Lu Feng was right. We really couldn't let Fang Feng and the others move forward now. Once Bishui Garden enters their firing range, it is almost certain that Bishui Garden will be reduced to rubble by their artillery. Doomsday did not expect this situation. The construction of the Hope Base has always been aimed at enemies such as zombies or devourers who do not have long-range attack capabilities. How could they have imagined that Devourer would let human armies like Equation and others attack themselves? Laolu. Without the defensive wall, our soldiers will suffer heavy losses. Evacuate. We still have underground and can contend with them for a while. Doomsday's voice continued. As long as we hold on until the madman comes back, we have a chance. We can't let the two legions lose too much now. From the surveillance, Doomsday has seen that the soldiers of the two legions have begun to lose more and more, because the artillery fire of Fang Fang and others has destroyed the defensive wall in front of them. Losing the cover of the city wall, they had begun to attack the Hope Base with firearms. For artillery shells, they still have a way to determine the impact point, but for direct attacks from firearms, no matter how powerful they are still unable to defend against them. In the previous artillery attack, the Hope Legion and Guardian Legion combined only lost a dozen people. But after the defensive wall was completely destroyed, in just half an hour, nearly 1,000 soldiers fell under the hail of bullets from the opponent. Doomsday naturally couldn't watch the soldiers of these two legions being so damaged by Fang Feng's long-range firepower, so he still gave Lu Feng the order to retreat. Brothers. The military advisor asked us to retreat. I also know that this is the best choice for us to survive. Lu Feng suddenly threw away the walkie-talkie, and then shouted loudly to the soldiers of the two legions. Lu Feng. Before the Hope Base was established, I was always a selfish person. Even after the Hope Base was established, I stayed here just to survive. I don't know when I changed. I only know that now I can give everything I have for the continuation of the Hope Base. I'm not doing it for that son of a bitch's continuation of humanity, I'm just doing it. I hope the base won't be destroyed and our home can exist forever. Now, the military advisor has issued an order to retreat, so I will follow his instructions and issue this order to you, and the entire army will retreat. But I will not withdraw. I cannot watch the Green Water Garden being razed to the ground. That is the only meaning of my life in this world. Bishui Garden is the headquarters of our Hope Base. If it is there, the Hope Base will be there. If it is gone, I don't know how I will explain to the lunatic when he comes back. Whoever wants to explain all this to him should retreat to the Blue Water Garden and go underground to tangle with these sons of bitches. If you don't want to, disperse, we will hold them here until the madman comes back. After speaking, Lu Feng raised the rifle in his hand, roared, and rushed towards the advancing Equation and others. Why do I feel like this guy talks so much nonsense today? Tang Haoshan shook his head, complained to Gui Weivue next to him, and then followed Lu Feng and rushed forward. Maybe, you're afraid that you won't have a chance to speak in the future, right? Gui Wuovong shrugged his shoulders, replied casually, and then rushed forward. Behind the three of them, Dai Guo, Luo Keiying, Su Mo, Taizu, Huang Hua, Li Tianxiang, Meng Fei, Zhang Xiu, Chen Tianhao. None of the core figures in the Hope base followed Duan Lei's order to retreat to the Bishui garden. They all charged towards the enemy in front of them. Behind them were the soldiers of the two legions. None of them followed the military advisor's orders to withdraw to the Blue Water Garden, but chose to stay on the battlefield. This is the first time that the Legion of Hope and the Legion of Guardians have disobeyed orders, and perhaps, it will also be the last time. These bastards. Looking at the images displayed on the surveillance camera, Duan Lei punched the console and cursed loudly. Then, he turned back directly and shouted to Lin Li and Apollo. Send out all your mutated beasts and kill those sons of bitches, even if they are all exhausted. Already dispatched. Lin Li's little eyes were widened at this time. He had seen from the surveillance camera that Huang Hua, his best friend and the only guy he cared about in the world, had launched a charge despite the hail of bullets. At that moment, he had already issued an order to his mutant rat army to attack immediately and kill all the humans who attacked the Hope base. The mutant rat army may be a little weak against Devourer, but they are still quite terrifying against humans. It's a pity that Wang Feng is not here now, so no one can command those bees. Otherwise, they should be able to cause great losses to Equation and the others. So, at this moment, whether it was humans or mutant beasts, Hope Base began to launch a comprehensive counterattack against its enemies. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 683. The shelling stops. Fang Fang shouted loudly and enthusiastically, then pointed at the people in the Hope base who were charging towards them, and shouted. Charge the entire army. Kill them. Fang Fang felt that now he had truly obtained the power he wanted. At least no one below Dai Jianfeng dared to disobey his orders. This is much better than when he was at Sci-Fi base before. As for now they have become the minions of the Devourer, helping them attack their own kind? What's this? If you were caught by the Devourers and threatened by him to help them attack humanity, you would agree, too. After all, if you don't agree, you will die, and dead people have no distinction of character. No matter whether you die heroically or in a bitter way, you only have one name, corpse. Even if someone will say that you are a hero and have dedicated your life to the cause of human liberation, so what? You are still dead, and the evaluation of you by future generations has nothing to do with you. Those guys who want to leave their name for eternity are so short-sighted that their lives will be extinguished and all their thoughts will be in vain. Even if future generations lift you up to heaven, what does that have to do with you? The most important thing in a person's life is now. Take it one day at a time and don't worry about anything else. Whether others criticize or praise, you have to be alive to hear it. This was Equation's idea, so he didn't think there was anything wrong with leading his soldiers to attack the Hope base now. Anyway, he is the enemy of Hope base. What happened to Devourer? The enemy of your enemy is your friend, especially when this enemy can decide your life or death. You should obey the orders of this enemy. At this time, Fang Fang couldn't help but feel elated when he saw that the Hope base had launched a counterattack. His current goal is to kill more survivors of the Hope base. The more he kills, the better. That's why Fang Fang simply ordered to stop the bombardment and let his soldiers use firearms to deal with his enemies. Although Fang Fang is not a very good person, his grasp of the battle situation is indeed excellent. Especially now, the two legions of the Hope base, together with Lu Feng and the others, have violated Duan Lei's orders, made the decision privately, and launched an attack on Fang Feng and the others. At this time, it is the best time for the Equations and others to cause heavy losses to the Hope Base. Because there is no defensive wall, those who are charging at Hope Base are now exposed to the firepower of Equation and others. Although these people have at least level 6 strength and will not die after being shot in the head, they still have weaknesses after all. Therefore, under the intensive firepower of Equation and others, the soldiers of the 2 legions of Hope Base continued to fall under the intensive firepower attacks of the opponent during the charge. Duan Lei watched the scene in front of him through the surveillance camera, but was unable to do anything. All the combat forces he could send out had already been sent out. Team Thunderstorm, follow me. Duan Lei suddenly straightened up, took a deep breath and said. Judging from the current situation, if nothing changes, Lu Feng and the 2 legions will suffer heavy losses even if they are able to destroy Equation and the others. Duan Lei naturally couldn't accept such a result, even if he knew that Lu Feng and the others were actually doing this to protect the Hope Base. Being approached by Equation and the others is indeed more terrifying than being approached by someone who is devoured. Although this sounds strange, it is the fact. Devourers have no long-range attack capabilities, so as long as they are kept outside the walls, the people and buildings inside will be safe. But now that they have Equation, once they get close, they will definitely turn the Blue Water Garden into ruins. The 2 soldiers who had been around Duan Lei turned around and walked out together after hearing Duan Lei's words. After Duan Lei handed over the work in his hands to Shen Yishan, he also walked out. In fact, there is nothing to hand over, because except for the combatants, everyone else in Bishui Garden has already retreated underground. When he arrived at the entrance of the club and looked at his Thunderstorm team, Duan Lei rushed directly to the battlefield ahead without saying a word. Naturally, the Thunderstorm squad followed closely behind, running towards the battlefield together. Strictly speaking, this time was the first real attack of the Thunderstorm team. Although they had cooperated together many times before, after all, they had not experienced actual combat. Therefore, at this time, the more than 500 members of the Thunderstorm team were excited and nervous at the same time. But after all, they are also from the Guardian Legion. Although they have never fought as lightning attribute users, they still participated in battles before becoming awakened ones. So Duan Lei has nothing to worry about. Lu Feng had been hit by several bullets at this time, and even one of his eyes was blinded. If he hadn't already entered the ranks of 7th level creatures, he might have died by now. But even so, he did not stop his progress, still dodging left and right, moving forward. Behind him, the core figures of the Hope Base also rushed forward bravely, although in front of them was a hail of bullets composed of countless dense bullets. At this time, more than a dozen core members of the Hope Base had fallen on the charging road. Their bodies had gradually become cold, but their hands were still holding their weapons tightly. Yu Fenghan, Wu Qi, Lu Wu, Ximen Lianying. These people who can definitely be regarded as the core of the Hope Base have also fallen to the ground at this time, losing their vital signs. The hands of Lu Wu and Ximen Lianying were still tightly held together, as if they were struggling to crawl together before they died. Live together, die together, still be together. Boom boom boom. Just as Lu Feng and the others were charging, a roar suddenly sounded behind them, and then the ground shook. Lu Feng looked back and saw that it was Apollo, leading the elephants under his command, rushing over in a menacing manner. Then, Lu Feng noticed that something seemed to be passing by quickly under his feet. Looking down, he saw a large group of rats passing by them, rushing towards Equation and others opposite. Our reinforcements are here. Brothers! Kill them! Lu Feng raised the rifle in his hand and shouted loudly. Kill! Waves of shouts erupted from the mouths of the core members of the Hope Base and the soldiers of the 2 legions. Although they have lost many comrades, their momentum has not been defeated, and they still have the belief that they will win. They are indeed powerful. If we hadn't found these humans and let them attack here, we would have suffered heavy losses. Looking at the battlefield in front of him, number 15 said softly. Humph. I don't think they can hold on for long, but it's okay. At least, they have almost exhausted the long-range weapons of the human base opposite. Number 11 said with a cold snort. Let's go. Once those mutated beasts rush in, those humans won't be able to hold on. Number 15 suggested. No. It's humanity's own war now, it has nothing to do with us, just let them kill each other. Number 11 was simply indifferent to the death of Fang Fang's men. Humph. I wish they would all die cleanly. Can we trust these guys who can even betray their own race? After hearing No 11's words, the other brood guards stopped saying anything and turned to look at the battlefield. The mutant rat army and the elephants were very fast. After they entered the battlefield, they surpassed Lu Feng and the others within a short time. Especially the army of mutant rats, because they are very small, so although Fang Fang and the others desperately focused their firepower on this group of rats, they still could not stop the tide of rats from rushing towards them. As for the mutated elephants, let alone that, hitting them with rifle bullets is no different from scratching an itch. Even the most powerful sniper rifle cannot penetrate an elephant's skin. However, because they saw that the city wall in Ganlin County had been destroyed, some ammunition was needed to attack the headquarters of the Hope Base, so all their artillery had been withdrawn to the rear to prevent it from being damaged during the war. It's too late to push it out now. After the mutated beasts rushed into Fang Fang's team, Fang Fang and his team were immediately in chaos, and screams could not be heard. Lu Feng and the others also took advantage of this opportunity to accelerate forward and reach a point-to-hand distance with these guys. In this way, Fang Fang and Dai Jianfeng's men were no longer opponents. After all, they are just evolved or awakened ones, not even one who has reached level 5. Of course they couldn't withstand the attacks from everyone in the Hope Base who had reached level 6 or above. In addition, their masters, the Devourers, had no intention of rescuing them at all, and just stood aside and watched. For number 11 and others, the role of these captured humans is to use up all the long-range weapons in the Hope Base. Now they not only almost exhausted the ammunition of the long-range weapons on the opposite side, but also killed many enemies. This is already an unexpected surprise for Devourer. Now that Equation and the others have completed their mission, their life and death naturally seems inconsequential to number 11 and the others. Even number 11 and others hope that all of Fang Fang and others will be killed in battle, because they had an agreement with Fang Fang before. If Fang Fang and the others do not die, as Devourers who do not know how to break contracts, they will waste their experience arranging them. Therefore, in the hearts of number 11 and others, it is best for Fang Fang and the others to die together with those difficult guys at the Hope Base. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 684. Looking at the battlefield in front of them, number 11 and the Mother Nest Guards were all watching coldly. For them, no matter how many humans died, it had nothing to do with them. Number 11. Your idea is still good. Let these humans kill each other, which can not only save our troops, but also consume the opponent's strength. Number 15 looked at the battlefield and smiled. Before this, the method number 11 told them was actually very simple, that is, to bypass this base and go to other places on this continent to have a look. That's why they set up a defensive position opposite the Hope Base. Later, on the East Continent, they found several gathering points of humans, and these gathering points did not have the strength of the human base in front of them. After occupying these bases with overwhelming force, number 11 stopped the Devourers under his command from killing these humans, and negotiated with them instead. What number 11 said to them was very simple, that is, to let them attack the Hope Base. As long as the Hope Base was taken down, number 11 and the others could guarantee that they would no longer use their captives as food. Of course, as a devourer who would not break an agreement, Number 11 also set the effective date of this agreement before the arrival of the mother nest. Once the mother nest arrives, all agreements will be invalidated. Number 11 only promised that he would tell the mother nest about the agreement they had made before, but how the mother nest would decide was not something Number 11 and his team could control. Despite this agreement was a blessing from heaven for Fang Cheng and his team. Because they originally thought that they would definitely die, and they would die in an extremely tragic situation. But now, even if the last mother nest still ordered them to be killed, they could at least live a little longer, right? As for attacking the Hope Base, for Fang Cheng and Dai Jianfeng, this requirement was even less of a condition, because they originally developed here in order to destroy the Hope Base in the future. So the two sides immediately hit it off and reached an agreement directly. In this team, there was also the group of people that Hu Yahuan had taken away. However, Hu Yahuan is not among these people now, because Hu Yahuan is dead. He was drained of his vitality by Number 11 himself and turned into a pile of dry bones. After leaving the Hope Base, Hu Yahuan and his companions did not go too far, but ran to the underground fortress in Juking City and took it as their shelter. Although the people in the Hope Base knew they were there, no one paid attention to them, which allowed them to have a place to stay in this doomsday. When the Devourers arrived, Hu Yahuan and his companions were captured by the Devourer army without any resistance. Because Hu Yahuan and his companions did not guard against the direction from which Hope entered the base. They knew that the Hope Base would not deal with them, so as long as they did not take the initiative to provoke them, they should be safe here. But the Devourers' attack this time happened to come from the direction of the Hope Base. When they were first captured, Hu Yahuan and his companions were desperate and looked desperate. He was because the Devourer came from the direction of the Hope Base, which means that at this time, the Hope Base had been destroyed by these alien invaders. Although all of them were driven out of the Hope Base, they had lived in the Hope Base and knew the details of the Hope Base. Now, the Hope Base was destroyed, and they were also captured by these alien invaders. They almost foresaw the final outcome of mankind. But soon, the leader of these Devourers made them understand their misunderstanding. The Hope Base was not destroyed. On the contrary, these alien invaders bypassed there and found them because they could not destroy the Hope Base. Now, the purpose of these alien invaders is very simple, which is to let them, with weapons belonging to humans, destroy the Hope Base. As long as they successfully destroy the Hope Base, at least they will be safe before the final leader of these alien invaders arrives. However, Hu Yahuan did not agree to this matter. Hu Yahuan knew the identity of these people. They were aliens, not of the same race as himself. And those guys in the Hope Base, whether good or bad, are his own kind. Moreover, Hu Yahuan knew clearly that from the beginning to the end, Hope Base had not wronged them, but they had wronged Hope Base. In the previous things, Hu Yahuan was for his own survival, but now, helping aliens to attack his own kind was not something Hu Yahuan could accept. Hu Yahuan was a countryman, he did not understand those big principles, he just knew that his wife died in the mouth of zombies in order to let him survive. And the last words of that woman were to let him live well. For the words of his wife, Hu Yahuan could watch his own kind die in front of him, and would not risk saving them. He could also go against his conscience and say something he did not want to say. But now, the aliens in front of him asked him to do something that had exceeded his bottom line. Because Hu Yahuan knew that these people were aliens, not the same creatures as himself. Once I agree to them, help them, and use the weapons they provide to attack my own kind, then I am a traitor. Although Hu Yahuan is a rural person and does not understand the truth, the movies shown in the small village made him understand that being a traitor means being criticized by others. Rural people may not understand the law, and they are not good at interpersonal relationships. What they are best at is chatting about family matters, such as the Zhang family and the Li family, even in their spare time. But what they fear most are two things: 1. Being dug up by others, and 2. Being criticized by others. These two things are even more excessive than having their own pots smashed. Rural people don't know much about face, but they are the ones who care the most about face. Once you do such a thing, even if you are alive, you will not be able to raise your head for the rest of your life, and you will not have the face to see your wife when you die. This is what Hu Yahuan thought at the beginning. So, when number 11 and the others made the request, Hu Yahuan agreed like everyone else, and took the equipment that Devourer had collected in the East Continent into his own hands. However, after Hu Yahuan picked up the automatic rifle in front of him, he pointed the muzzle at number 11 and then emptied the entire magazine. Unfortunately, Hu Yahuan didn't know the Devourer's weakness, so the bullets in this magazine didn't cause any real damage to number 11. Except for giving number 11 a little shock, Hu Yahuan didn't cause any trouble to the Devourer. Of course, number 11 was very angry about being attacked by the captives, so he took action himself and sucked Hu Yahuan's vitality. I didn't become a traitor, and I tried my best to survive. After I die, when I see my wife, she shouldn't be angry with me, right? This was the last thought in Hu Yahuan's mind before he died. Hu Yahuan's death obviously greatly stimulated the survivors around him. After Hu Yahuan died, all these people knelt on their knees and kowtowed to the Devourer. All the weapons they had just taken were thrown as far as they could to avoid suspicion. In order to show their loyalty, these people even rushed up and wantonly destroyed Hu Yahuan's old and shriveled body to prove that they were not in the same group with this guy. And number 11 did not continue to make things difficult for them. Because of their own limitations, the Devourer could not use long-range weapons, so they could only use the hands of these humans to use the long-range weapons they found in this world to attack the most important enemy in their eyes. When number 11 took the survivors away, Hu Yahuan's body was already in pieces, leaving only a head. On his head, the pair of eyes that were actually a little relieved looked at the sky silently, as if they were celebrating their liberation. And Hu Yahuan's friends were fighting with the Hope Base at the moment. They pointed their guns at their fellows in front of them and fired the bullets in their guns at them desperately. These people are different from Hu Yahuan. They have no bottom line. As long as they want to survive, they can do anything. Not to mention that the person in front of them is their own kind, even if it is their own father, they may have the courage to pull the trigger in their hands. Even if they know that even if they kill the people in front of them, they may eventually die because of the will of the biggest leader of the Devourer, but they don't care. Even if they can live one more day, they will not hesitate to kill all those who prevent them from living this day. Sometimes, human nature is so fragile. Perhaps everyone will understand in the end that for people, wealth, power, house, car, and even the past scenery, these are actually not important. The most important thing is still their own life. Everything, in the face of life, is no longer important. As long as they are alive, even if they are beggars, it is much better than a billionaire lying in a coffin. It's just that these people obviously don't understand that in life, there are many things that are more important than life. Just like those who are still rushing towards them in their fierce attack now. They were even stepping on the corpses of their comrades to attack them. Because they had faith, persistence, and hope in their hearts, even if they died, they could still leave their own mark in this world. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 685. At this point in the war, both Fang Fang and the others, as well as the two legions at Hope Base, have suffered heavy losses. Especially after the mutant rat army and those elephants were dispatched, they completely disrupted the formation of the equation. As a result, they no longer had enough firepower to stop the soldiers from Hope Base from rushing towards them. Old Fang. Those bastards won't help at all. Are they going to watch us die? Dai Jianfeng watched the survivors around him being killed one after another, but the Devourers behind them were completely indifferent and couldn't help but cursed angrily. What's the solution? They've made it very clear before that if they don't kill us, they just want us to help them attack the Hope Base. Fang Fang said expressionlessly. For them, we are just food, just like we don't care about the life or death of pigs and sheep. If we are all dead, they won't feel any pity. As long as they can achieve their purpose of consuming the ammunition of the Hope Base, it will be enough. Then, should we continue to help them? Dai Jianfeng looked back at Devourer and whispered. No help? What can we do if we don't help? Now we have completely become mortal enemies with the Hope Base, and there is no possibility of easing up. Fang Fang looked at Lu Feng and others who were about to rush in front of them and said. Even if we defect now, I hope the base will never treat us as allies again, and we will die faster. Then we just wait to die. Dai Jianfeng asked angrily. At least we won't die. Fang Fang shook his head and said. This is just the first line of defense for the Hope Base. They also have a second line of defense, so the Devourers won't watch us die. At least they need to leave some humans behind to help them attack the second line of defense. Let's stand back. When those guys rush in front of us, the Devourer will definitely take action. As he spoke, Fang Fang was already quietly retreating. What should we do? Just watch and wait until they are all dead. On the Devourer side, number 15 is also asking number 11. Of course not. There is still a line of defense at the base opposite, and we can't let all these humans die just yet. Number 11 replied. As soon as the human base on the opposite side rushes here, we will attack with all our current troops. These people in front of us should be the main force of the human base opposite. Try to keep them all here, and the subsequent battle will be much easier. Number 15 nodded, and then summoned several Devourer commanders and asked them to go down and mobilize their troops to prepare to enter the battlefield. Lao Lu. At this time, Duan Lei had already arrived with his thunderstorm team. He caught up with Lu Feng, pulled out his body as he rushed forward, and shouted loudly. Withdraw immediately. The Devourer is about to take action. If you don't withdraw, everyone will be thrown here today. Can't pull it down. Lu Feng roared angrily. At this time, Lu Feng looked quite embarrassed. The original gun had run out of ammunition and was thrown away by him. Lu Feng only had a machete in his hand now. The clothes on his body had already been beaten to tatters, and his body was covered with bloodstains. One eye was blown out and half of his arm was blown away. If this were before the end of the world, an image like his would be one step away from death. At this time, Lu Feng looked at Duan Lei with his only remaining eye, and then pointed at the battlefield around him. Everyone has already rushed forward. If we retreat now, we will become a target for Equation's bastard. We have rushed here anyway, let's fight to the end. As long as we can kill the Equations and the others, and then destroy those weapons, it will be worth it even if all the 2 legions die here. It's worth your ass. Duan Lei cursed. Soldiers from our 2 legions should be replaced by sons of bitches like Fang Fang. Okay. Stop, mother-in-law. I can't go down anyway. Now if you call for withdrawal, not many people will listen to you. Go back quickly and take away as many people as you can. Lu Feng shouted. Without the long-range weapons and only the Devourer army, the Green Water Garden might still be able to hold on. Don't waste time here, get back. After saying that, Lu Feng turned his head and continued to kill in front of him, leaving Duan Lei with a silhouette of his back and a sentence. Hold on until the madman comes back, and then let that kid destroy these Devourers and avenge us. Looking at Lu Feng's back, Duan Lei suddenly grabbed his hat, threw it to the ground, and shouted at the top of his lungs. Come with me. Let's rush together. Afterwards, Duan Lei also charged in the direction of Lu Feng with all his strength. Duan Lei might never have imagined that he would be impulsive one day. What Lu Feng just said is indeed the best way. The wisest thing Duan Lei can do now is to immediately take his thunderstorm team back to the Clear Water Garden, gather all those who can still fight, and set up defenses in the Clear Water Garden. If Lu Feng and the others can really kill Equation and the others and destroy the opponent's long-range weapons, they do still have a great hope of guarding the Clear Water Garden. However, Du Enlai suddenly felt that what he should do at this moment was to follow these warriors who were desperately attacking the place and attack the enemy in front of him. All along, Du Enlai rarely fought in person, because he was a military strategist and a commander, and the front line of the war was not a place for people like him to appear. But now Du Enlai suddenly felt that he should stay here this time and participate in this attack. Although he also had a great chance of being killed, Li Yingning was still in the Bishui Garden. With him, Hope Base can still mobilize manpower and build the last line of defense. In this case, let himself go crazy once, accompany Lu Feng and the soldiers of the two legions to fight together, let Devourer and Fang Cheng and the others know that in Hope Base, anyone who wants to be an enemy of them will pay a heavy price. As soon as Du Enlai launched a charge, the Thunderstorm squad behind him naturally followed closely. At this time, the Hope Base warriors who rushed to the front had already come into close contact with Fang Cheng and his people, and then the two gangs immediately entangled together, intertwined, and started a melee. Under this situation, hot weapons are no longer useful, and both sides can only rely on cold weapons to fight. After the battle reached this stage, the people on Fang Cheng's side were obviously at a disadvantage. Because they were just awakeners or evolvers, their personal strength was far inferior to the soldiers of the Hope Base. Moreover, in terms of actual combat experience, they also had a certain gap with the soldiers of the two legions who often fought outside. So, after the hand-to-hand combat began, Fang Cheng and his side suffered a large number of casualties. At this time, as Fang Cheng and Du Enlai expected, the Devourer army also began to react. They were also ready to join the battle. Because at this time, Fang Cheng and his people had less than 20,000 people left. If the Devourers did not take action, they would be wiped out in less than half an hour. After the Devourers took action, Fang Cheng and his people finally got a respite, while the pressure on the Hope Base suddenly increased. The first to suffer were the mutant elephants that were rampaging on the battlefield and invincible. Their hard skin plays a great role in human weapons such as bullets or cold weapons. And now, after the Devourer made a move, the elephants' defense became useless. Because these elephants are large targets and very conspicuous on the battlefield, they also became the Devourer's first attack target. At the moment the Devourer made a move, at least dozens or even hundreds of Devourers appeared beside each elephant. After their palms touched the elephants screamed miserably. "Apollo! Evacuate quickly! What are you doing?" Gui Weavong shouted at Apollo, who was riding on the elephant. Everyone knew that the elephants were finished. Their almost perverted defense was almost useless to the Devourer. Apollo slowly turned his head, looked at Gui Weavong, and shouted, "Go back and tell Taishis to be careful in the future, and find a man to marry quickly." Then, Apollo jumped off the elephant's back, pulled out his weapon from behind, and killed the Devourers who were sucking the vitality of the head elephant. After this period of time, Apollo has regarded these elephants as his relatives and comrades, especially this head elephant. These elephants fell into the current situation under his command, so at this time, Apollo did not choose to give up on them and escape by himself. Although he also knew that he could not save these elephants by himself, he still rushed forward without hesitation. Seeing Apollo's actions, Gui Weavong gritted his teeth, and his figure swept up, and rushed towards Apollo. "Since you don't retreat, let's die together. 20 years later, I will be a returnee again." At the moment when the Devourer took action, all the soldiers of the Hope Base rushed towards them. After getting close, they began to release all their powers crazily without any reservation. In their opinion, as long as they could kill a Devourer, it would be a good deal, and maybe there would be a chance to earn another one next time. Just when the battlefield was in chaos, there was a sudden violent vibration, as if an earthquake had occurred, and the ground began to shake violently. Lei was leading the thunderstorm squad to charge, and when the violent vibration began, he looked directly in the direction of the Black Dragon Bridge, because he felt that the source of the vibration seemed to be there. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 686. With the violent vibration, Lei led his thunderstorm squad and rushed to the front quickly, shouting loudly. Everyone in Hope Base, assemble. This time, no one refused to execute Lei's order, because others also vaguely felt that this vibration might be related to Wang Feng. Since he is coming back soon, they should not need to fight desperately. Now these people in Hope Base have a blind trust in Wang Feng. It seems that as long as Wang Feng returns, there will be no problem he can't solve. Not to mention these devourers, even the devourer's nest, Wang Feng can also destroy it with a wave of his hand. Lei led his thunderstorm squad to the front of the battlefield. Countless lightning fell, and all the devourers within their attack range were electrocuted into charcoal. Retreat. Let's see what's going on. This violent vibration made number 11 feel that something was wrong, so he quickly issued an order to withdraw the troops. Although they have the upper hand now, the devourers also suffered heavy losses because Lei and the more than 500 thunderstorm team members he brought with him were recklessly using their abilities. The thunder attribute is more effective than the fire attribute when dealing with devourers. Because the thunder attribute has paralysis, devourers who are hit by lightning will immediately lose their ability to move. And the lightning ability that enters their bodies will automatically attack their consciousness core. However, when thunder attribute psychics use their abilities, they consume much more energy than fire attribute psychics. With such a full strength burst, Lei and his thunderstorm team can only last less than 10 minutes. Once this period of time has passed, they will lose their combat effectiveness due to exhaustion of physical strength. However, since he guessed that Wang Feng might be coming back, Lei now has no scruples and leads the thunderstorm team to rush around on the battlefield, wantonly consuming his physical strength. Because number 11 also issued an order to withdraw troops, and Lei had previously asked everyone in the Hope Base to gather, so after 5 minutes, the battle in the field basically stopped. Hope Base and the Devourers all gathered separately, left the battle, and confronted each other at a distance of about 50 meters. At this time, the vibration had stopped, and the earth returned to tranquility. Everyone in the Hope Base all looked in the direction of the Black Dragon Bridge. In their opinion, only Wang Feng could make such a big noise on this planet. Now that the noise has disappeared, he should appear soon, right? Damn. What is this? Lu Feng widened his eyes and looked in the direction of the Black Dragon Bridge, shouting in disbelief. At this time, Lu Feng's blind eye had healed, but even with 2 eyes, Lu Feng seemed to feel that what he saw was not very real. In the direction of the Black Dragon Bridge, a huge space battleship was slowly rising into the air, showing its huge body in front of them. This warship is more than 20 kilometers long and is a typical giant. The color of the warship is black, the hull is shining with metallic luster, and the gun barrels extending from the warship are flashing with cold light, announcing the coming of their doomsday to their enemies. Is this a madman driving it? Tang Haoshan came to Lei and asked uncertainly. It's better. Lei also said in a daze. When the warship appeared in their sight, Lei was the fastest to react. He immediately looked at the Devourers, because he didn't know what the Devourer's nest looked like, so this thing might also be the Devourer's nest. If that's the case, then it's the end of Hope Base and even the entire human race. However, looking at the Devourer's doubtful look, it's obvious that this warship is not the Devourer's nest. And looking at the 3 little ones, this big guy should not be their Kali tribe's warship. So, Lei was guessing in his heart, Could the driver of this big guy really be Wang Feng? If it was the race that Wang Feng had mentioned before, that created the Devourer, even if they appeared here, they should not have risen from the ground. They should have come to this planet from the air. Since this giant battleship rose from the ground, then this battleship should have been left behind by the ancient humans when they came to this planet before. Duanlei guessed correctly that this huge battleship was driven by Wang Feng. And this battleship was indeed driven by those humans when they came to this planet before. Just a few hours ago, Wang Feng finally completed the absorption of the brick, but he did not absorb all the energy in the brick. Although it looks like it is just a small brick, the energy contained in it is quite huge. Even if Wang Feng desperately absorbs it, he cannot absorb all the energy in it. The brick now looks like it should still be a quarter of its original size. However, Fuxi knows that the remaining energy in it is probably still close to half of its previous total amount. Because the closer the tile reaches the center, the purer the energy and the greater the quantity. However, now Wang Feng has no need to absorb the energy from it. Because he has now reached the realm of a 10th level creature, and the hope in Fuxi's heart has become a reality. Wang Feng, he really restored the function of his hair. At this time, Wang Feng was sitting in the cab of the battleship. This cab was quite huge, with nearly 1,000 square meters of space. Wang Feng was sitting on the chair in the middle of the cab. Surrounding him was a circle of control panels, all of which were filled with flashing light spots. Wang Feng, with all his hair floating in the air at this time, became familiar with the operation of this battleship under Fuxi's guidance. The thing in front of you is the power system, and the right side of it is the fire control system. Damn it! Don't light that green light spot. That's the battleship's shield. Do you want to use up all the battleship's energy? Fuxi was standing behind the chair at this time, helping Wang Feng explain the functions of these control panels. Since he has just awakened the function of his hair, Wang Feng seems to be very unskilled now. After all, each person has about 100,000 hairs, and it is not that simple to control them completely at will. At least, now Wang Feng is trying hard to prevent his hair from getting tangled, colliding with each other or even getting knotted due to his own command. This is much more complicated than controlling one's hands and feet, but after all, this is the earliest instinct that humans have, so after more than 2 hours of practice, Wang Feng was barely able to control the battleship. Now Wang Feng completely understands why Fuxi said that the generation of humans who lost the ability to control their hair because they activated their forbidden talents and moved their home planet were no longer able to freely control their own warships. Although such a huge battleship has a backup manual control system, it is quite difficult to operate. And it can only use the most basic power system and a small amount of fire power system. To fully utilize the capabilities of this battleship, it can only be controlled through hair. Because it seems that in the entire universe, only humans have limbs that are very important to them like hair. In order to prevent other creatures from grabbing their own battleships and using them to attack themselves, when the human race originally designed the battleships, almost all the control panels were designed for their own hair. At least, what Wang Feng can do now alone is probably something that tens of thousands of humans without the function of hair cannot reach this level. After discovering that Wang Feng had awakened the function of his hair, human Emperor Fuxi was overjoyed. After first letting Wang Feng become familiar with how to control his hair, he took him to the battleship. This is the Yanhuang, the most powerful warship of the human race. In the heyday of the human race, there were only less than 100 such warships. Seeing Wang Feng's dumbfounded expression on the battleship, Fu 11 smiled proudly, and then said in an extremely proud tone. And after being attacked by the space ghost, we only have 3 such warships left. Speaking of this, Fuxi looked a little sad. There is 1 ship there on the home planet, 1 ship here, and another ship. They left with us at the beginning, but now no one knows where they are. With this, you can take all the humans on this planet, leave this planet, and find another planet suitable for human survival. The power system of the battleship is mainly provided by life energy. After you absorb it, the remaining energy is enough for you to drive it and find another planet suitable for human survival in the universe. At least, that devourer can never stop you from leaving. Now that you have restored the function of your hair, your offspring should also have this function when they are born. As long as we find a safe planet, our human race will be able to develop again. One day, we will return to our home planet again to help them kill the ghosts of the universe. Fuxi said a lot of words to Wang Feng in one breath, his face full of relief. You just said that you want me to take the humans on this planet away? Why should we escape? Looking at Fuxi, Wang Feng asked seriously. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 687. Do you think you can resist the cosmic ghost with just one battleship and one planet? After hearing what Wang Feng said, Fuxi asked with his eyes wide open. You have seen the video of the cosmic ghost fighting with us before. We concentrated the power of a galaxy at that time, but we still couldn't resist the attack of the cosmic ghost. You only have one planet now, no strategic depth, and you are the only one who has restored the function of your hair. When we were fighting the cosmic ghost, the function of our hair had not disappeared. With your current strength, which is not even as good as our one battleship, you plan to fight the cosmic ghost head-on. Yes, yes, yes. Wang Feng felt a headache. All right. I didn't say that we have to fight the cosmic ghost now. Let's solve these troubles first. Wang Feng looked at the battlefield on the ground. Due to the existence of the sky eye, he could clearly see everyone on the battlefield without looking at the surveillance screen. After looking around, Wang Feng couldn't help but secretly rejoice in his heart that he came out early. If it was a little later, the loss of Hope Base would be immeasurable. Whether it is the soldiers of the two legions or the core members such as Duan Lei and Lu Feng, they are all very important to Hope Base. Even if Wang Feng appeared now, it was a little late. He had already seen the bodies of core members such as Lu Wu and Ximen Lianying. And the Devourers are now looking at the battleships in the sky. When the space ghosts and the human race went to war, they did not exist, so they did not recognize the battleships of the human race. But looking at the expressions of the human race opposite, they also roughly understood that this battleship should probably be their enemy. Not good. The whole army attacks, rushes up, and entangles with those human races. Number 11 suddenly shouted loudly, and after his reminder, the other Mother Nest guards suddenly understood. They are definitely not opponents of such a large warship, especially since they do not have the ability to attack from a distance. Although they still have human beings like Fang Cheng and their weapons, they are very skeptical about how much effect those weapons can have on this warship. So, if they do not want their side to be hit by this warship, they can only rush into the other side's human race. In this way, perhaps the warship will not use weapons with too high damage for fear of accidental injury. At the moment when the Devourer army rushed towards the people of Hope Base, Duan Lei rushed forward again with his thunderstorm squad. Then, the sky full of lightning directly blocked the Hope Base camp, stopping the Devourers from advancing. At this time, the other members of Hope Base also launched all their powers and fired all their powers at the Devourer army. They did not kill the enemy, but only wanted to stop their charge. Of course, they could think of what the Devourer could think of. It would be fine if they could not help Wang Feng kill the enemy, but at least they could not become a burden. Became Wang Feng's concern when attacking the enemy. Just as the Devourer rushed forward and the people of the Hope Base tried their best to stop it, the warship in the air opened fire. Countless dense beams of light were emitted directly from the warship, covering the Devourer army. Even some members of the Hope Base who were entangled with the Devourer were covered by these beams. Even Duan Lei and his thunderstorm squad became one of these people because they rushed too far forward. However, these members of the Hope Base were not afraid. In their opinion, they could drag the enemy to death together. They were worth it, at least they didn't lose face. However, after being covered by those beams, the members of the Hope Base did not feel any pain. These beams were controlled by Wang Feng. Under his sky eye, he could distinguish the people below clearly, and naturally would not hurt his own people by mistake. These beams came quickly and disappeared quickly. After the beams disappeared, all the devourers within the range covered by the beams fell to the ground. As for the humans inside, they were unharmed. They stared at the devourers on the ground blankly, looked at each other, and suddenly burst into cheers. Yeah! Long live the boss! The members of the Hope Base jumped up immediately. After being covered by the beams, they and the devourers had no scars on their bodies, but the only difference was that the devourers all fell to the ground and had lost signs of life, while they were still alive. Retreat! Retreat immediately! Number 11 shouted, then turned and ran towards the small fighter planes parked behind him. After seeing the terrifying power of the battleship, the other hive guards no longer wanted to continue fighting, and all ran after number 11. And the rest of the Devourer army, under the order of number 11, all began to flee. But of course they did not have the privilege of riding on the fighter planes. Although those fighter planes could carry some Devourers, it was obvious that the current hive guards did not have the time to carry more Devourers. As soon as they entered the fighter planes, the hive guards started the fighter planes and then fled at the fastest speed. Wang Feng did not control the warship to attack the fleeing Devourers again. What he used just now was the weakest weapon on this warship, because this warship is a space warship, so let alone the main gun, even the secondary gun has at least the power to destroy the entire Dongzhou continent. Now the Devourers are too close to the people in the Hope Base, and since he just got this warship, he has no idea about its firepower, so Wang Feng dare not use other weapons at all, and can only watch the Devourers escape. As for the energy beams used just now, after firing once, it takes a certain amount of time to charge, and cannot be fired immediately. However, this only temporarily allows them to escape. Now Wang Feng has just got the warship, and when he is completely familiar with this warship, it will be the end of these Devourers. The most important thing now is to stabilize the Hope Base first. Just looking at the battlefield below, Wang Feng knows that the Hope Base has suffered a lot of losses in this battle. At least the soldiers of the two legions have lost more than 10,000. Although this battleship needs humans who can awaken the hair function to be able to operate it freely. But after all, there are still many auxiliary functions that can be completed by humans by hand. Otherwise, those human races back then would not have been able to drive this battleship to this planet after losing the function of hair. Wang Feng is now planning to get all the core figures and main combat members into this battleship. Although he is reluctant to admit it, Wang Feng knows in his heart that the method Fuxi mentioned before is indeed their best method now. Now he knows that the black hand behind the Devourer is the Cosmic Ghost. And the Cosmic Ghost must have known the existence of their planet now. It is really unrealistic to rely on this battleship to resist the attack of the Cosmic Ghost. Therefore, even if Wang Feng does not want to be a stray dog and flee in a hurry when he does not see the enemy, he must make preparations in this regard first. This space battleship has enough living areas, at least it is not a problem to accommodate all the tens of millions of people in the entire Hope Base. Moreover, the living area can also grow food and synthesize drinking water. The first batch of humans who arrived on this planet by warship relied on these to survive the long space voyage. So now Wang Feng can completely move the Hope Base to this warship, which is not only safer, but also can take all humans away from this planet in the real crisis. However, for Wang Feng, escape is only his last plan. He will not go this far before an unmatched enemy appears. The Devourer escaped, while Fang Cheng and others looked at the giant battleship in the sky with a confused face. Now, even those who are short-sighted know that this space battleship undoubtedly belongs to the Hope Base. Now, even their biggest backer, the Devourer, has fled in a panic. What about them? Go, Fang Cheng did not hesitate and ran away directly behind the Devourer. The appearance of this space battleship not only defeated the Devourer's fighting spirit, but Fang Cheng and others also knew that they were doomed. Now, apart from escaping, they have no other ideas. Conquer the Hope Base? Are you kidding me? Even the invincible Devourer in their eyes lost at least more than 1,000,000 troops under the attack of the energy beam just now. What can they use to attack this space battleship? The rifles in their hands? Or the artillery behind them? Not to mention whether the people in the Hope Base will give them the opportunity to use artillery to attack the space battleship. Just to say how much damage the artillery will cause to the space battleship, they have no confidence at all. So, when encountering an invincible enemy, the best way is to turn around and run away. You can't outrun your enemy, but as long as you can outrun your comrades, then maybe you can survive. Dai Jianfeng and other survivors only reacted at this time and immediately joined the ranks of the fleeing army. Ha ha ha! Brothers! Chase! Don't let these sons of bitches get away! Lu Feng shouted loudly, and then took the lead to chase Fang Cheng and the others. The return of Wang Feng, coupled with his momentum of killing millions of Devourers with one shot, greatly boosted the morale of everyone in the Hope Base. After Lu Feng took the lead in the pursuit, the others also shouted excitedly and chased after those guys who were running away. After experiencing a desperate situation, the Hope Base finally regained its confidence due to the return of Wang Feng, and launched a desperate counterattack against the enemy they once thought they could not resist. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 688. Looking at the members of the Hope Base who were chasing Fang Cheng and the Devourer army below, Wang Feng did not launch another attack. Even though the energy beam just launched had been fully charged, Wang Feng just drove the battleship and watched the battle quietly in the air. He knew that these guys in the Hope Base might have been a little depressed during this period. At least, since the establishment of the Hope Base, it seems that there has never been such a big loss, and even the core members have died in the battle of nearly 20 people. Now that I am watching from above and can support them at any time, there is basically no need to worry about their safety. Let them take this opportunity to vent their depression. The Devourer army and Fang Cheng and others are all desperately running away at this time, and they don't have the courage to turn around and fight. This is the first time that the Devourer army has seen a weapon that can cause such an effective blow to them. When fighting with other planets before, no matter how advanced their weapons were, it was difficult to cause effective damage to the Devourer. Just like the weapons that humans used to attack the Devourer before, if they were not attached with superpowers, I am afraid that they would be several levels worse for the Devourer. The scene of the energy beam just now completely frightened the Devourers. This beam seemed to have little damage, and there was no sound, it didn't look very gorgeous, and it had almost no destructive power to the surrounding environment. It could be said to be a very low-key weapon. But after being covered by the seemingly harmless beam, they actually lost more than 1,000,000 Devourers in an instant. As long as they were covered by the beam, whether they were commanders, elites, or predators, they all fell to the ground and lost their ability to move. When the Devourers behind them used their consciousness cores to sense these fallen fellows, they suddenly found that their consciousness cores had disappeared. In other words, these Devourers who fell to the ground were already truly dead. What kind of weapon is this? It can actually directly attack the Devourer's consciousness core? Devourers appear so powerful because of their special life form. Their bodies are not afraid of destruction. Even if they are broken limbs, it doesn't matter to them at all. As long as their consciousness core is not damaged, they will not die. And now, their bodies have not been damaged at all, but only the consciousness core has been completely destroyed. It can be said that this weapon is a weapon specifically targeting their Devourers. The warship in the air now is a machine to harvest them in the eyes of the Devourers, and they don't even have the mind to fight against it. The only 6 remaining nest guards boarded 6 small fighters respectively, and then drove the fighters at low altitudes, fleeing madly towards the south continent. They didn't dare to gather together, for fear of being wiped out by the warships behind. They didn't dare to pull up the fighters and escape from the high altitude like before. That's a space battleship. Although they haven't seen this space battleship, just looking at its huge appearance and the shape of the ship, the Devourers know that this battleship is mainly used for navigation and fighting in the universe. In front of such a battleship, changing the battlefield to high altitude is undoubtedly a suicidal act. They are now flying close to the ground, and the battleships may not dare to attack them because they are cautious, because they know that the weapons on the battleships must be powerful. Like the beam just now, even if it is not the weakest attack firepower on this battleship, it is definitely not that strong. More powerful weapons can absolutely destroy them, but the human race below will definitely be affected by the firepower. So those small fighters only flew about 5 meters above the ground and did not dare to pull up at all. Seeing this situation, Wang Feng just smiled lightly and did not care. If he wanted to keep these mother nest guards, the energy beam that had just been charged could do it. However, Wang Feng did not want to kill these mother nest guards directly now. Because once these mother nest guards were killed, the remaining Devourers would be leaderless. With their ability to survive in almost all environments, if they hid, it would be really difficult for Wang Feng to find them all. Wang Feng just slowly followed the pursuit team on the ground, and from time to time sent out beams of light to rescue the members of the Hope Base who were in crisis. Soon, the Devourers and Fang Cheng arrived at Jianguan Town. Facing the sea, the Devourers jumped into the ocean without hesitation, then dived into the sea and disappeared. Fang Cheng and the others who followed them were all stunned after seeing this scene. They were not at a dead end, they could use the sea to escape, but this method was suitable for Devourers, not for humans like them. The strongest among them were just awakened ones. It was simply a dream to cross the sea and swim to other continents. Especially when they saw that several humans belonging to their side jumped into the sea and wanted to fight desperately, they were caught by the Devourers in the sea and their vitality was directly sucked dry. Because they had to cross the sea, these Devourers also needed to replenish the life energy in their bodies. And these humans are of course the best food. Anyway, now the Hope Base is no longer something they can break. For them, these humans naturally have no meaning of existence. They might as well let themselves eat them, just to add own energy. Even some of the survivors wandering on the shore were caught by the Devourers passing by them, and then their life force was sucked away. They quickly aged and died amidst the screams. At this moment, these survivors who had taken refuge in the Devourer seemed to be abandoned by the world. Not only the members of the Hope Base were killing them crazily, but their masters also began to swing their butcher knives at them. What to do? Dai Jianfeng looked at the equation with fear on his face when he saw the situation in front of him and asked. What can we do? Haha. When that big guy appears, Hope Base will be invincible. Even the Devourer has escaped. Who can break through Hope Base? Looking at the space battleship floating in the air like an aerial fortress, Fang Fang said with a wry smile. Since we can't break through the Hope Base, then we are naturally useless. Of course, Devourer will not keep us anymore. Now, humans are our enemies, and so are the Devourers. We are doomed. The Devourer soon disappeared into the sea, and only humans were left on the seaside of Jianguan Town. Fang Fang and his group of survivors, after the pursuit at the Hope Base and the killing before the Devourer entered the sea, there are now only about 3,000 left. They all looked panicked and instinctively leaned together, looking at the members of the Hope Base who were surrounding them with fear on their faces. You stupid bitch! You son of a bitch! With anger on his face, Dai Guo rushed in front of Dai Jianfeng, waved his hand and gave him a big slap in the face. The slap sent him flying directly into the air, and a blood arrow accompanied by several teeth shot out from Dai Jianfeng's mouth. Kuo. I was wrong. For the sake of our childhood, you you help me to intercede and spare my life." After Dai Jianfeng fell to the ground, he immediately got up and crawled in front of Dai Guo, then knelt on the ground and begged. He is scared now, really scared. If before, he was still jealous of Dai Guo and felt that he was always climbing on his head and felt dissatisfied, that emotion has long since disappeared. When death is imminent, almost everyone who is afraid of death will make such a choice. What ideals, what ambitions, what backbone, what face. Let them all go to hell. Between a glorious death and a humiliating life, most people will still choose the latter. No matter how beautiful you are when you die, after you die, you are just a corpse. Everything that happened during your lifetime has nothing to do with you. No matter how good or bad the world's opinion of you is, you can't hear it anyway. For a person like Dai Jianfeng, he is willing to trade all the glory in the world for even a month of life. As long as the other party doesn't kill him, he can do whatever he wants. Because his bottom line is only one: survive. That's why Dai Jianfeng knelt in front of Dai Guo and prayed for his life. This was the first time since he came of age that he had surrendered like this in front of Dai Guo. But he didn't think it was important. He knew Dai Guo's position in the Hope Base. As long as Dai Guo spoke, he would definitely be able to survive. Even if someone sees that he is a coward and he is afraid of death, so what? As long as I am alive, there is still a chance for everything. If I die, there will be nothing. Dai Guo lowered his head and looked at Dai Jianfeng kneeling in front of him, his eyes full of sadness. He never thought that this playmate he had grown up with would appear in front of him in such an image. If Dai Jianfeng had been tougher just now, yelled at him after landing, or even attacked him, he wouldn't have felt so disappointed. Looking back at the brothers behind him, and then at Dai Jianfeng who was kneeling in front of him, looking at him with a pleading look on his face, Dai Guo let out a long sigh. Puff. As Dai Guo waved his right arm vigorously, Dai Jianfeng's head flew up high, his face still filled with desire and prayer for life. For the enemy. Hope Base has only one word: kill. Looking up at the surrounded equation and the others, Dai Guo had a murderous look on his face and pointed the sword that was still bleeding in his hand at them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 689. With Dai Guo's order, the soldiers of the two armies of the Hope Base all rushed towards Fang Cheng and his men. Looking at the angry crowd in front of him, Fang Cheng suddenly laughed. He did not beg for mercy from the people of the Hope Base like Dai Guo did, trying to let them let him go. Although he also saw familiar faces like Meng Fei and Li Tianxiang in the crowd. But he saw it more clearly than Dai Jianfeng. He knew that from the moment he led his men to bombard the Hope Base with artillery fire, the hatred between them and the Hope Base was irreconcilable. Before, his hatred with the Hope Base could be said to be the hatred between humans themselves. If it was just this, he felt that maybe the Hope Base would let him go. He had understood this point in his heart after he saw Hu Yahuan and knew Hu Yahuan's experience in the Hope Base. But he had no choice at the time. They had become prisoners of the Devourers, so there were only two ways in front of him. Either help these Devourers attack the Hope Base, or immediately become their food, just like Hu Yahuan. He saw with his own eyes when Hu Yahuan was drained of his vitality by number 11. At that time, he also admired Hu Yahuan very much. Because in his impression, this guy was also a very selfish person, who could do anything to survive. Unexpectedly, Hu Yahuan actually used a gun to attack number 11 directly in front of them. However, although he admired it in his heart, Fang Cheng did not intend to do the same. Because it would not cause any trouble to the devourer, but would just give up his life in vain. However, Fang Cheng now envied Hu Yahuan a little. Although he died in pain and misery, he was at least killed by the enemy of mankind. And he was about to die at the hands of his own kind. In this doomsday where dangers are everywhere and the enemies of mankind are almost endless, he was killed by humans. This cannot but be said to be a kind of sadness, especially, among these people. Perhaps some of them are alive to this day because of their own reasons. After all, Fang Cheng was the first to react. If he hadn't been there, it's very likely that the Sky-Fire base wouldn't have been built, and naturally there wouldn't have been so many survivors waiting for Wang Feng and his group to arrive. Fang Cheng and his group didn't resist because they knew that resistance was useless. Whether in terms of strength or numbers, they were no match for the Hope base. Especially since they had just been dumped by their master, they couldn't bring up any fighting mood at all. As for the killing in front of him, Wang Feng didn't stop it. When he saw Fang Cheng and his group standing on the side of the devourer, Wang Feng guessed what had happened. Fuxi also saw this scene, but as an old hand who had lived for who knows how many years, he certainly saw what these human races who were being slaughtered had done before. Traitors! At no time will they be pitied, and Fuxi certainly won't help these guys to plead. He even felt a little strange in his heart. Are those human races fools? They actually help other races to attack their own people? Even if they can win in the end, as humans, will you live comfortably among alien races? The killing lasted only a few minutes before it ended. None of the survivors on Fang Cheng's side survived, and all were killed by the angry members of the Hope base. Seeing that the war was finally over, the members of the Hope base looked at each other and suddenly burst into a violent cheer. Some of them looked up to the sky, shouting hysterically, some kept waving their weapons, jumping desperately, and screaming desperately. There were also some people who knelt on the ground, covered their faces with their hands, and pressed their heads against the ground, crying silently or wailing loudly. In the previous battle, these soldiers did not think they could survive when they launched the charge. At the moment they followed Lu Feng to launch the charge, they already thought they would die in this war. Their only belief at the time was to kill Fang Cheng and the others, kill all the humans on the opposite side, and destroy those long-range weapons. Only in this way can the Hope base have the hope of resisting the enemy in the next war. As for them, they are guardian warriors and hope warriors, and their duty is to protect the hope of mankind. Guarding the Hope base. Now that the war is over, they actually drove such a powerful enemy back to the sea. They saved the Hope base, they saved the East continent, and they also saved their beliefs. Just when Lu Feng said that everyone had completed the mission and could withdraw to the Green Water Garden, but he would continue to fight to destroy those long-range weapons that could pose a huge threat to the Hope base. None of the soldiers of the two legions, including the core figures, obeyed Duan Lei's order to withdraw to the relatively safe Green Water Garden. They all made the same choice and rushed directly to the road that, in their opinion at the time, was a road that was doomed to death. Because they are the Guardian Legion, because they are the Hope Legion, because they are all soldiers. When there is a war, the safe rear is definitely not a place where soldiers should stay. The front line of the war is the stage for soldiers. When they live, they should fight for the goals they protect. When they die, more people should get a chance to survive because of their death. This is the meaning of the existence of soldiers. And they all use their actions to prove their identity to everyone, whether they are enemies or their own people. Looking at the soldiers below with different reactions, Wang Feng was silent for a long time. He seemed to remember that at the Black Dragon Bridge, after defeating the 100,000 corpses, it seemed that these soldiers also cheered like this, or cried bitterly. It seems, your people are not bad. After a long time, Fuxi spoke softly. Although Fuxi didn't know that these soldiers who appeared in Jianguan town at this time had rushed here with the determination to die. But such a scene evoked Fuxi's memories from a long time ago. The former human emperor Fuxi was also the leader of the army, leading his soldiers to fight fierce wars with countless other races. The situation in front of them also appeared after they won a hard-fought victory. Wang Feng couldn't help but smile when he heard Fuxi's words, his eyes full of pride and pride. He slowly lowered the height of the battleship, and then opened the elevator located at the belly of the battleship. Now Jianguan Town is below him, and there is no place for the battleship to land. Moreover, once the space battleship is successfully built, it will rarely stay on the planet, so its entrances and exits are not like airplanes, opening on the side. Although there are many entrances and exits on the hull of the battleship, they are all prepared for the space fighters on those battleships, not for people to walk. Seeing the battleship move, all the members of the underground Hope Base looked up at the battleship in the sky. When they found that a huge disk was slowly descending at the bottom of the battleship, all the people under the disk left there and made room for the disk. The disk with a diameter of 3 kilometers stopped when it landed about 1 meter above the ground, and then Wang Feng's figure appeared at the edge of the disk. He looked at the people below and smiled. "Is there anyone who wants to see our new battleship?" "Yeah." Cheers rang out again. Although they had already guessed that the person in the battleship was Wang Feng, when he really appeared in front of everyone, and he personally announced that this huge battleship belonged to them, the crowd below couldn't help but boil. Duanlei was the first to jump onto the battleship's lifting platform and punched Wang Feng on the shoulder. "If you come out a little later, you probably won't see us. I want to come earlier, but this big thing is hard to control. I haven't figured it out yet." Wang Feng shook his head helplessly. "This should be left by ancient humans, right?" Duanlei looked at the battleship above his head and asked. "Yes. That's right. They left it, but it's quite big inside, and there's a life support system. We can consider moving the headquarters here." Wang Feng nodded and said. After Duanlei, all the members of the Hope Base on the ground jumped onto the warship. The disk had a diameter of 3 kilometers. After they all came up, it didn't seem very crowded. Seeing that everyone had already boarded the lift, Wang Feng pressed a button on the remote control in his hand, and then the lift rose again. Wang Feng had not yet revealed the function of his hair. At this time, his hair was casually draped over his shoulders. There might be devourers around now, so Wang Feng seemed a little cautious. And his long hair, perhaps because this warship was too eye-catching, no one noticed it at this time. All the people on the lift looked up at the giant warship above their heads. Everyone looked curious, as if they had forgotten the battle just now. This big guy was rare even in the movies before the end of the world, let alone seeing it with their own eyes. Before the end of the world, humans did not have the ability to build such a warship. At that time, humans used manned carrier rockets at best to explore space. Although that guy was also quite large, it was nothing compared to this giant that was over 30 kilometers long and nearly 20 kilometers wide. Bang! With a slight sound, the lifting platform finally rose back to its original position, bringing everyone at the Hope Base to a world that amazed them. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 690. Whoosh whoosh. Several fighter planes flew into Nanzhou continent one after another. After the fighter plane stopped, 6 brood guards got off the fighter plane one after another and gathered together. In the sky, there is still a fighter plane hovering in the sky. Among this fighter plane are 2 Devourer commanders. Of the fighters that Devourer transported here through the wormhole, these are the only 7 remaining, and the remaining 3 have been destroyed by Hope Base. The fighter plane in the sky is giving an early warning to the brood guards. Once the space battleship arrives, it will remind the 6 brood guards on the ground to run away. It seems that the battleship didn't catch up. After coming together, number 15 said in shock. This is inside the planet. The combat power that the space battleship can exert is limited. Many powerful weapons cannot be used. Otherwise, the planet may be destroyed accidentally. The human race will definitely not dare to take the risk. Number 11 said. At this time, No 11's face looked a little ugly. The appearance of the giant battleship undoubtedly killed all their hopes of completing the mission. Then what should we do? Should we fight against this human base in the eastern continent? Number 15 asked. Tie a knot. Number 11 jumped up suddenly. Then it's a space battleship. Hit it, hit it. What are you going to hit with? Use your fist to knock it down. Yes. This one is impossible to fight now. If such a big guy comes out, there is no way we can kill it. Guard number 12 also nodded and said. We have no means of long-range attack, and now we only have small fighter planes, not even a spaceship. There is no possibility of dealing with that warship. Then, what about our mission? Number 15 asked, looking at number 11 eagerly. Don't think about the mission. With that battleship here, I'm afraid it won't be possible to easily take over this planet even if the brood comes. Number 11 calmed down and then said. Our current mission is no longer to attack the human base, but to preserve ourselves. If we all die here, the strength of the brood will be directly reduced by half. It will probably be more difficult to destroy this planet. That's right, number 12 nodded and said. But, it's not safe for us even if we stay here, right? Although there is still a defensive position we built before, but for that space battleship, it doesn't matter whether it is there or not. So, we can't stay here. Number 11 nodded and said. Let's wait here for our army to come and gather. After they all come back, we will immediately divide into two groups and go to the western continent and the northern continent. There are still humans on these two continents. So even that space battleship doesn't dare to use powerful weapons to deal with us there. After hearing No. 11's suggestion, the other brood guards looked at each other, and number 15 was the first to object. This won't work. We can't disperse the army now. Seeing that number 11 was about to refute him, number 15 stretched out his hand directly and stopped number 11. Listen to me. Then, number 15 looked at the other brood guards, took a breath and said. We still have 4 million troops left. If we follow the method on the 11th, we will disperse again, 2 million on each side. And after arriving on that continent, we still need to disperse again and cannot get together. That space battleship may not dare to use powerful weapons, but when it comes out, can we resist the energy beams it launches? Obviously, that kind of beam is a weapon designed for our devourers. Not only does it not use the energy generated by explosions as the main method of killing like other human weapons, it even does not affect the surrounding environment. Cause any damage. You should have all seen it just now. It is not only us devourers who are enveloped by the beam, but also many humans. But what about those humans? They were unscathed. It's just us devourers who died, so I don't agree with using humans as cover to avoid that space battleship. After hearing what number 15 said, number 11 also closed his mouth. Number 15 was right. The energy beam emitted by the space battleship just now really scared him. The devourers shrouded in the beam died instantly, and they died silently, and even their bodies were not damaged in any way. If this weapon was not specifically designed to target the devourer, they would not believe it. But this kind of weapon is really not used against their devourers. Fuchsie and the others developed this weapon on their way to escape. At that time, the Space Ghost had not yet created the devourer. So really speaking, this weapon should be used specifically to target cosmic ghosts. The beam energy does not attack the body of the creature, but directly attacks their consciousness. This kind of weapon is actually made by combining the principle of the ray gun, a weapon originally used by the human race from the cosmic ghost. The ray gun is a unique weapon of the cosmic ghost. Because they feed on the vitality of other creatures, they do not like to directly kill their enemies when fighting against them. To them, it's a waste of food. That's why they invented this kind of light gun. The ray gun directly attacks the consciousness, but will not damage the body of the creature, and the ray gun will not cause the death of the creature. The rays emitted by this ray gun will directly attack the consciousness of the creature, causing the creature to faint and become similar to a vegetative person. Such creatures will lose any ability to resist, but will not lose their vitality, which just meets the needs of the cosmic ghost. After Fuchsie and his men got a few of these ray guns, they modified this weapon on the way to escape and then installed it on their warships. Because the human race does not need to leave the enemy's life, the ray guns they have modified will directly kill the consciousness of the creature, causing the creature hit by the ray to die directly. It just so happens that the only weakness of the devourers is consciousness, so after this weapon was created, Wang Feng was the first person to use this weapon. Unexpectedly, he actually killed 1,000,000 devourers' army directly. As for the human race who were also covered by the light, due to Wang Feng's control, the light did not attack them, so the devourers thought that this light would only work on them. So what do you mean we should do? Number 11 looked at number 15 and asked. We gather here. I can't. Those humans have the courage to destroy a continent on their planet. Number 15 said. What if they do? Number 11 frowned. There were no other creatures on the south continent except for their devourers. For humans, if they could kill all of their devourers, it seemed that destroying a continent was not an unacceptable price. Then, we can survive. Hearing No 11's question, number 15 laughed instead. All the other hive guards looked at each other, and none of them understood what number 15 meant. If, as number 15 said, the battleship came to attack and destroyed the entire continent, they would definitely not be spared. They had seen the weapons on the battleship. Even the weakest weapon could instantly destroy their 1,000,000 troops. If it was more advanced, don't even think about it. There was no reason for them to survive. Don't forget. We still have those fighters. Number 15 pointed to the fighters parked on the side and explained. If we spread to the other two continents according to number 11 and disperse all of them, this will allow us to live longer. But it also means that in the next period of time, we will live a life of hiding from place to place. Even after we all die, before the mother nest arrives, humans will still not stop their search for us. Because they don't know if we have all been killed by them. But if we gather all the devourers here, it shows that we want to fight a decisive battle with the human race on this continent. At that time, I think the human race is likely to directly use high-powered weapons, and will not hesitate to destroy this continent, and also to kill us all. After this continent and the devourer army on it are destroyed by the space battleship, the human race should think that we have been annihilated. In this way, we can slowly wait for the mother nest on this planet arrive. Otherwise, if we have been facing the search of the human race, who can guarantee that we will not be found by the human race in the 6 months when the mother nest arrives? We have lost 4 mother nest guards. Next, the death of each mother nest guard will weaken the mother nest. If we follow the method of number 11, I even dare to bet that when the mother nest arrives, it will be a miracle if 2 of us can survive. Number 11 took a deep breath and then asked. Then, according to your method, we gather our forces and let these forces be destroyed together with this continent. How can we survive? Fighter planes. Number 15 said. We gather all our forces, because the number is the same as what they saw before. Even if they send people to the other 2 continents to check after destroying this southern continent, they will learn from the surviving humans on those 2 continents that we have long retreated from those 2 continents. And when they thought we were all staying here and ready to fight them, our chance came.